In this video, I'll be assuming two things. One, that Monster Hunter World was your first Monster Hunter, or you're just not completely familiar with everything that Generations and now Generations Ultimate will offer. And two, that you're probably well versed in the weapon that I'll be discussing, so this won't be a full-on guide, but rather a quick summary on the differences between the weapons in the two games.
What's the difference?
Hey guys, what's up? Right now I'm going to talk about the Insect Glaive. The version of Insect Glaive we see in World is really not too different from the versions we've seen so far in the series. Aside from a few motion value changes, and a couple of damage buffs and nerfs here and there, the way it plays really hasn't changed since its first appearance in the series. This kind of speaks to the Monster Hunter team and how they really succeeded in their vision for the Insect Glaive when they were first designing the concept of the weapon. There are only a few notable changes. First, there are a couple of quality of life additions. For example, the whole Kinsect system has gotten better and better as the series has progressed, and now we can just, buy them and upgrade them, and it's a lot easier compared to back in 4th gen. Speaking of the Kinsect, we have a lot more control of it now, and we're able to now actually aim up and down and diagonal, which helps when trying to get the Kinsect buffs from taller monsters, which was a slight problem the weapon had in previous games. Pushing more of that partnership with the Kinsect idea of the Insect Glaive, the Kinsect now is a bit more involved in the fighting, as they've given it the new dust mechanic. I feel like they always wanted the Kinsect to kind of fight more with you, and here in World they really nailed that concept. Another big part of the Insect Glaive when it first appeared was this aerial aspect to it, and now they kind of pumped that up even more, giving us several different aerial attack combos and mounting options, which is pretty cool. Before I move on though, there is one last thing I want to talk about, which is a bit of a motion value change in the combos. In the previous games, we always had this infinite combo that we always wanted to spam. In World, we still have the infinite combo, but it is not the strongest thing we want to be doing. While it's still good, we mainly want to be doing the finisher attacks as often as we can, as most of the damage is there. It's kind of the opposite in the previous games. The finisher is still pretty good, and we should do it when we gotta get out of the way, but if we have a chance to just sit there and do damage, then we want to do the infinite combo. This is mainly important because whether or not a certain style of Insect Glaive can do the infinite combo in Gen Ultimate will be somewhat of a deciding factor when you're choosing which style you're going to use. Either way, World's iteration of Insect Glaive has everything we've known and loved so far from the weapon. When switching over to Gen Ultimate, you're going to find the weapon to be very familiar. In fact, I think Insect Glaive mains are going to have the easiest time transitioning in between Gen Ultimate and World. Let's look at the styles. First off is Guild. Essentially being the same playstyle, this will be the unchanged moveset just with the added bonus of having 2 Hunter Arts. Guild is very popular because an unchanged moveset is most likely what Insect Glaive mains are looking for. Next is Striker, and right here I'm actually just going to go ahead and couple Striker and Alchemy
Do a barrel roll
together. While both having their benefits of having 3 arts and the SP support, both Striker and Alchemy lose the ability to use the circle button or A button attacks. So because of this, they won't have the infinite combo. Instead, our Kinsect commands are going to be in our A button, so while we are able to easily maneuver our Kinsect attacks into our combo, without being able to do the infinite combo, it's just not as consistent as we'd like for Insect Glaive. Another reason is that although the Hunter Arts for Insect Glaive are pretty good, they're not too game-changing enough where we'd want to ditch certain attacks just to have more Hunter Arts. Next up is Aerial. People were worried when Aerial was added to the game, seeing as how the Insect Glaive could already vault in the air, and they wondered what could they add to it. But the Monster Hunter team did a nice job by making the already aerial Insect Glaive even more mobile in the air, giving us 2 options for aerial combos. If you like to play Insect Glaive online and like to just be supportive and keep getting mounts for your team, then aerial style might be really fun for you. And the cool thing about aerial is that it doesn't lose the infinite combo on the ground. In fact, after you get your mount, you can just play it as if you would any other Insect Glaive style. Next is Adept. Now Adept Insect Glaive is one of the few Adept styles where it's actually harder than the rest of the styles. This is because of a mechanic in Adept that only lets us send out our Kinsect once, consuming the whole stamina bar. However, we have an option to do a Kinsect attack out of an Adept evade, which will grab a buff for us. Adept Insect Glaive is still strong and very viable, but it'll take a bit of getting used to as you'll have to change your approach in how you get your Kinsect buffs and fight the monster. And last but not least is Brave, which is kind of similar to Adept, in that we get the Brave dodge, which is a nice little bit of survivability for the Insect Glaive, and once we're in Brave mode, It makes our Kinsect be a little bit more proactive. Maybe this was a little first concept test to see if we can get the Kinsect more involved in our fights, as they did in World. You'll notice in Brave mode that your Kinsect will fly out on certain attacks and do damage and also gain some buffs for you. Lastly, let's talk about the Hunter Arts. As I mentioned before, the Hunter Arts for Insect Glaive are pretty good, but nothing is too incredible. The first one is Extract Hunter, which is one of the Hunter Arts that you probably will see often. Putting it simply, you just launch your Kinsect and it grabs all 3 buffs for you for an extended amount of time. It's a very useful Hunter Art, and in guild style, it's often the second Hunter Art that's brought. The next one is Swarm, which summons a little cluster of bugs to fly around you. It's essentially just an extra hovering boost of DPS, which also gets buffed as you gain the Kinsect buffs too. Then is Bug Blow, which is just a kind of damaging pole vault. It does a decent amount of damage, but if you use Bug Blow with Swarm active, it'll become even stronger as you'll add the bugs to your attack and do additional damage. And last but not least was the new one they added, which is Kinsect Boost, which buffs up our Kinsect and makes it attack more. All in all, the weapon in Gen Ultimate and World play very similarly. As I mentioned before, I think Insect Glaive mains will have a very easy time switching over between the games. The fact that the Hunter Arts aren't too great and you can very much just play with absolute readiness makes one Hunter Art styles such as Adept and Brave just as viable as Guild. In both games, the weapon is fun, very mobile, and consistent, although there'll be less of a Kinsect focus in Gen Ultimate of course. When choosing your style, just keep the infinite combo in mind and you'll be fine. To reiterate, if you're more of the supportive player and you like getting mounts, then aerial style will probably be your thing. But if you're just looking to do damage and play a good old Insect Glaive how you want to play it, then you'll most likely enjoy Guild, Adept, and Brave. I hope this helped you see the difference in your weapon in the 2 games, and I hope I gave you an idea of what to expect and what to look for when you try out the weapon in Gen Ultimate. Thank you for watching, and happy hunting.